Leading on from our work on the major scale, I'd like to briefly introduce you to the concept of modes. Unfortunately, from my own experiences, far too many people think of modes as a bit of a mystical art and being far more complicated than they actually are. So, in this session, I'm going to outline a subject that in reality should be easy to understand and, with some practice, easy to use as well. So, what exactly are modes? As with a lot of things in music theory, the concept behind modes originated in ancient Greece, and it's amazing that to this day musicians the world over still refer to different modes using their Greek names. From these beginnings in Greece, the concept of modes was eventually adopted by the Catholic Church in Rome and simplified slightly into the modal system that we recognise and still use today. Using terms that you're familiar with, modes are basically scales. And importantly, they possess their own unique individual character and mood. Now, that one statement alone really rings true, and it's helped me to better understand and make use of them in the music I play. Now, the reason why we've learned and studied the major scale first is that it serves as a perfect gateway to enter into the world of modes. And the reason why they're called modes in the first place is that they're not actually completely different scales, but instead different sequences of notes, or modes, taken from the scales we already know. Let me explain. The major scale, as I hope you've just realised, is in its very nature a mode, and its Greek name in the world of modal theory is called Ionian. Now, we can use the major scale, or using its Greek name, the Ionian mode, and using the notes contained within it, we can create other scales or modes from it. And the different modes that we create using this process are referred to in music as the modes of the major scale. Now, you're probably thinking that this creation of different modes sounds complicated, but in reality the concept is beautifully simple. So, let's put this into action and work towards understanding how to figure out these so-called modes of the major scale. The major scale, or Ionian mode, contains 7 different tones, and if we were in the key of C major, we could number and name these tones as follows: 1 C, 2 D, 3 E, 4 F, 5 G, 6 A, and 7 B. Remember that we're looking at the different tones of the scale here, and hopefully you can see that although from root to octave the major scale uses 8 notes, the root, or tone 1, and the octave, tone 8, are exactly the same note. And in turn, this is why this particular scale only contains 7 different tones. Now, the major scale, or speaking modally again, the Ionian mode, gets its sound or character from this unique order of notes. For example, there is always a semitone interval between the 3rd and 4th notes, and the 7th and 8th notes of every single major scale. And importantly, it's this defining structure that musically spells out the unique sound and character of this scale. So, how many modes does the major scale have? Well, if I was to tell you that the Ionian mode is the first of them, and using what you've just learned, you might actually be well on your way to answering that question for yourself. Okay, in total there are 7 modes of the major scale. 1 mode for each of the 7 different tones of the major scale. In order to work out the individual modes of the major scale, all we have to do is start a new scale that uses only the notes from our original major scale. And to put this into practice, I think it's easier to show you on the piano. Staying with C major, The first mode, as we now know, is called C Ionian, and obviously named because we're starting it on a C. And remember, I'm going to show you how we construct the modes of the C major scale. So this is our defined series of notes that all the other modes will eventually come from. Now, to play what's called the second mode of the C major scale, all we have to do is start on the second note of C major, which is a D, and play through an octave, but only using the notes from a C major scale like this. This mode is called D Dorian, and it's the second mode of the C major scale. Once again named because we've started it on a D, which is the second note of our original scale. Starting from the E and only using notes from C major, we can create the third mode of the C major scale like this. This mode is called E Phrygian. Continuing on using this technique, the fourth mode starts from the fourth note, which is an F. And the fourth mode is called F Lydian. The fifth mode starts on a G and is called G Mixolydian. The sixth mode of C major starts on the sixth note, which is an A. And in modal theory is called A Aeolian. And finally, the seventh mode of the C major scale starts on a B, and again only using the notes of C major we'd get. And this mode is called B Locrian. One of the things I discussed earlier was the fact that each of these modes comes with its own unique sound and colour, and hopefully just by hearing them played individually on the piano, you can begin to better understand this. By practicing the different modes, we as musicians can unlock the sound and character of individual modes and use them to directly express our own feelings in the grooves that we choose to construct. Also, we'll go on to learn that all of these modes, just like with our C major or C Ionian mode, can be represented and linked to a chord. Now, I appreciate that at the moment you're probably feeling a little lost, but it's the purpose of this session to get you fully aware of where modes come from. I really suggest that you play this session again until you totally understand the content, and when you have, be proud of all the new knowledge and terminology you've gained from this. I mean, who would have ever thought you'd be speaking Greek in a bass lesson? In the next session, we'll be looking at the second mode of the major scale, developing some exercises from it, and more importantly, making music. I'll see you there.